Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a conversation. Today, we are talking with Aaron Ferrell, founder of Sellers Arena. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring Aaron on, besides the fact that he's a total badass, is that we've been friends for a while, and I have kind of been chatting with him on and off. He's been growing his company, Sellers Arena, which I'd love, Aaron, for you to talk a little bit about. But it's an agency, right? And it has to do with Amazon. And Aaron and I were talking about this book called Built to Sell. And the whole premise of the book is like, how do you remove yourself from your business, in this case, your agency, so that the business runs without you and is a profitable, badass business. So, Aaron, maybe you could share a little bit about your story and then jump into some of the things that you learned and how you use that book to really change your business and upgrade it to take it to the next level.
Yeah, definitely. And, just want to say, first off, thank you for the awesome intro. You're awesome as well. We've been communicating back and forth for quite some time now, and been long overdue to get on the stream here and in front of your audience and everything. But yeah, so just to kind of get into the story, myself and my two business partners, Nick Hodge and Charles Kuhn, we started an agency back several years ago, and we were kind of led, from a lot of the quote unquote gurus out there that say, like, when you're starting an agency, all you need is 5 customers, or all you need is, however many X amount of number of customers in order to get to that exact goal. But what I quickly found out is, while that's great, and we, definitely have been able to exceed that, what we ended up doing, because we first started off doing pretty much everything A to Z on Amazon. No pun intended there, but yeah, in the beginning it was like it just became a little bit of a nightmare, because we're working with these big Amazon accounts. Some of them were startups, some companies that were featured on like Shark Tank, Ellen, and a bunch of other TV shows as well. But the main thing is, we were kind of a full service agency in the beginning, and that really led to a lot of issues, because, like with anything, I mean, no matter how much of a badass you are, if you have a limited team in the beginning, it really starts to get very constrained in terms of your overall scalability of your agency. So I think it was a couple months ago, we had kind of connected, and I was looking for I had an Audible credit, and I was looking for a audiobook to take a look, or to listen to, because that's the way I prefer to actually consume a lot of the content, just because you can kind of cruise around and listen to it as you go. I mean, I love physical books as well, but yeah, so then I went ahead and took Ben's suggestion, and once I started listening to it, it was like, boom, like mind blown, because completely shifted the way that I was thinking overall about how an agency is supposed to really function. And, everyone else is telling you, well, you do these cold emails, you maybe try to start advertising, you do all these different things, and they have maybe a physical business model that you can kind of follow along. But the questions that were never getting answered, no matter where I looked, was, like, well, how do I go about scaling this? And it was definitely an eye-opener reading that book, or listening to it on Built to Sell, because in that particular story, what it is they initially start off with an agency very similar to ours, where you have like big clients that pay a lot of money, but the problem is that no one wants to run a business that's dependent on just one single person, or 2 or 3 even. Like, you have to have a big diversification, and some things happen where companies may go through you for a while, and then they decide to leave all of a sudden. Maybe they're trying to cut cut corners wherever they can, or whatever the case may be. Just it may not fit in their budget at the time, but then what ends up happening when you run a model like that is that all of a sudden you're going from a really good lifestyle to, oh, like what, I don't know if we can cuss here, but
You can
but yeah.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely 100%. Yeah.
All right, yeah. So it's just like you go from that to like, oh shit, what do I do next? Like, because you're just very dependent on a very finite amount of clients, and quality is definitely a big concern of mine. I'm, a person that's very adamant about the quality of work that gets done, on behalf of my agency, and that's something also that can get a little hard in the beginning, because when you want that, you want to be the master of your own craft, and craftsmen, they don't like to give up that control over to other people, which kind of leads into the overall idea of outsourcing or delegation, or even just setting up the automations in your business so that way you can actually scale. So long story short, though, we were running that business model, and all of a sudden, when I was speaking with Ben several weeks ago or month, time runs together when you don't run off of a 9 to 5. But yeah, when we were speaking, I was trying to figure out a really good system that we could utilize in order to figure out kind of how to not only manage the projects, but also have the task oriented in a way that could be delegated to someone else, or you could identify what needed to be automated to begin with. And what ends up happening, I mean, I can't remember if I got this idea from you, Ben, or if I just happened to run into it, but it was like taking your day and writing down like every single task that you're doing over the course of a week, or or however long it really takes to really get the exact task that you're trying to accomplish every day. And what you soon find out is that all of a sudden, well, like if I'm the senior, or C-level in the company, and I can afford to have someone help me out, it's like, why am I spending my time that could be utilized to develop the business on something that could be outsourced or could be delegated to someone else for a much cheaper rate? And that's also not only helping myself, but it's helping others as well, because it's providing them an opportunity if they're not on their entrepreneur path, or if they just don't they're just not a born entrepreneur, have no desire for it. Either way, there's a lot of different variables, like in terms of entrepreneurs, people that love to work, people that love to invest. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just it's been helping significantly on that. Just reading that book alone, because I think, well, just to get back into the story a little bit, he was talking about the big contracts first. They were making a killing on a few companies, but they were getting very frustrated, and almost to the point where he like wants to sell his agency. So he runs into a highly successful mentor, and he kind of asks him some crucial questions along the way about his overall processes, his client onboarding, things of that nature. And essentially after that, he's able to identify that a lot of the tasks that he's doing is very repeatable, and it ends up being, it was this 5-step design process, and he was able to lay those out step by step, what his agency was doing on the regular. But the main issue that he was running into, and I think the main issue that a lot of agencies out there run into, is that they try to be a master, or they try to be a jack of all trades, master of none in a way. And it's like when you don't specialize in anything in particular, and you're not ever able to lock down those processes. You're not able to ever, determine how there's an exit plan if you ever wanted to remove yourself from the company. So that's what, in a nutshell, at least my interpretation of Built to Sell, it was like, it just was an eye-opening thing, that because his mentor was saying, well, if you want to go to sell the product or your company, who's going to want to buy that? Like, who's going to want to say, come in and say, well, I have 5 clients, and we do literally everything for them. I have no lead generation system. I have nothing that can be repetitive or repeated, and then they have to come in, and they have no standard operating procedures. They have nothing to go by. So then, therefore, you don't have a sellable business. And I mean, that was kind of the shift in my mind. And what ended up happening once I started kind of implementing that and discussing it with my team, we said, well, let's go ahead and identify, rather than like trying to do everything and be a perfectionist at everything. Let's try to come up with a service, an actual problem that everyone has, or obviously not everyone, but a lot of people that are selling on Amazon actually have. And that's when we came to the conclusion that, I think is it Parlita's principle, the 80-20?
I think, yeah, some Pareto, something like that.
Pareto, yeah. But it was like, what's the 20% of work that gets 80% of the results is kind of the mindset that we had at that point. And it's like, well, we know for a fact that obviously in Amazon, well, if if you're not familiar with Amazon, you won't know this, but the listing is very important, so that that you have high quality photos, copywriting to actually spike the emotions and help sell those products. But once that's completed, what's very important, like as a next step, once you have some social proof, some reviews, things like that, is paid advertising on the Amazon platform. And over the course of several years of running the agency, we became we mastered a lot of the pay-per-click elements, and that was something that we also have tools for. We know how to operate, and a lot of things can be automated rather than having a person sitting there clicking a button all day long. So we ended up crafting an offer at that point, and the offer was for pay-per-click. And then we actually seeked out a mentor for YouTube advertising, and we've been working with him for probably about a month and a half now. And it was just like night and day. I mean, like, we obviously in the beginning of any advertising, things are a little bit slower, and you're going to spend a little bit more money in the beginning trying to define and figure out who that ideal audience is, right? But once you've got that established, once you start to really niche down and figure out, who this audience is, now it's just like nonstop. My phone is going off, and it's like newly, and then like we get a lot of opt-ins, and then we're actually getting them on the phone from that opt-in and scheduling a meeting to kind of go over their advertising, their business goals, things like that, and see where we can help or if we can help. And we always try to be as transparent as possible. If they have a crappy product, it's just like, I'm not going to work with you, because I know that if you don't have a good product, you can't make shit shine. That's the old saying. So you just gotta, you gotta be transparent and all that kind of stuff. But if there's something where people are I can really see they're leaving the money on the table, by not advertising or not knowing what they're doing, and we can really help serve them, then that's when we may offer our services if we think that they're a good fit for our company and everything. So yeah, I mean that I know I rambled on for a while there. I don't know, yeah, if you had any other input on that.
Yeah, so let me just see if I can clarify some of the things that we were talking about,
Yeah.
and yeah, make a little bit more sense, and kind of touch on a few of those points. So I thought one of the biggest things early on that you were saying was, when you are, let's say you're the CEO of the company, which you are, right? Your time is very valuable. So if you're able to charge $200 an hour, why would you then do work that you could instead pay somebody else $10 an hour to do, right? Because that just doesn't make sense. You could pay them to do that, and then you could take that hour and you could go make another $200, so you're up $190, right? So that just makes sense. Another thing I wanted to clarify was exactly what Sellers Arena does, right? So I believe, and please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe in the beginning, y'all were doing like full service Amazon management. Whoops, hit the mic here. Full service Amazon management. So
Correct.
Y'all would partner with a big business. They wanted help with their Amazon stuff, so you would help launch products, write the listings, manage the PPC, just handle everything that it takes to get their Amazon stuff up and running, and then after making the built to sell switch, after making that switch, it seems like now you're really honing in and focusing, at least on the front end, a little bit more on just the PPC management, because it's a very definable offer, and you can say, okay, this is the price for that. This is exactly what we want to specialize in. This is exactly what we want to do. And then once you kind of have people in that front end at the, whatever your price point is, then if there are customers who you see as they have a bigger potential to grow, and that you can definitely get in there and do some damage, for lack of a better term, then you might like upgrade them to a more involved area with you guys. And I don't know if you're still doing the full service for a select few clients. So that was kind of my understanding there. And then as far as built to sell goes, I really like what you were saying about kind of the same transformation that you made of going from the A to Z, do everything, to take that one specific thing that you can be the best at. In built to sell, the example was, or the story was, is a story. It was a narrative. There was a marketing agency guy who was doing a lot of graphic design and a little bit of I think like some paid traffic or social media, whatever. And then the person in the story went from doing all of that stuff to just doing logos, right? And so the 5-step process that you were talking about was creating a logo. Like, they wanted to be the best in the world at creating logos, and they charged a set amount, right? And the reason I keep saying the set amount is because, at least it was important in the book, and I totally agree, if you have to negotiate a price every time, if you have to build out a custom proposal and a custom offer every time, that's going to take about a ton of your time, and it's just going to be a waste. So if you have a product at a set price, then everybody knows what they're going to pay, like, for sure. And that's what they're going to pay. Nobody has to haggle. Nobody has to negotiate. That's what it is. They know exactly what they're going to get. And one big premise of the book is turn a service into a product, right? So instead of, I'm going to do marketing for you, no, I'm going to create you a logo. So at the end of the day, you're going to pay a certain amount of money and get a logo. So it seems like y'all made the transformation from, at the end of the day, they're going to pay a certain amount of money per month, and they're going to have their PPC managed. Is that kind of an accurate summarization?
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, you definitely summed it up very nicely there. So yeah, I mean, because I think I might have missed or skimmed over some things, but yeah, and in the beginning, just to clarify, yeah, we were doing complete full management services, and we still offer it for a few select customers right now, but this is something that we built on top of it. during the transition phase and all that kind of stuff. But what I started to notice is that no one ever likes to lose any customers or anything like that. But if you know at some point, sometimes it's like if that's distracting you from getting to that next level, it's like sometimes it's in both of your best interests to end an agreement, because we do month to month, so it's not like we're held under contract or they're held under contract. But yeah, essentially, when you can provide that value and scale up another service, and that's kind of how it started with and built to sell, where he was like very hesitant to drop his bigger clients and move on to that next level because of like a lot of the cash flow issues and stuff like that with selling a product versus selling a service, because that's one distinguishing thing. I mean, we still kind of package the service as a like a monthly thing, or paying up front, for several months. But it's exactly what you were saying. Like in the beginning, the hardest part and the most dynamic piece of the business was, it wasn't even just the fact that we were trying to manage everything. It was the fact that every time my sales guy, would be on the phone with someone, I'm more of the technical nerd and the CEO, but like I guess CEO and CIO, you got to wear a couple different hats in a business, but at the beginning especially. But yeah, it was like every time he was speaking to someone, we were trying to custom tailor a solution for them,
And that
which in
takes
turn,
so much time. So
yeah,
much time.
exactly. Yeah, so I mean, you get, obviously you can get paid handsomely for that, but the problem arises when, well, how am I supposed to actually create standard operating procedures for this? How am I supposed to find someone that can sit there and do this repetitive task when there really isn't any rhyme or reason? Like there isn't any specific task that is repeatable, because every task is kind of unique. And then not only to mention, you also have to create unique proposals each and every time for the client based on those, and that confuses a lot of people. It confuses the client, it confuses the sales guy, confuses me. Like, so wait, what did we, what are we doing? Are we doing this or that, or whatever? So it's like when you try to serve everyone, you end up serving no one. So that's why we made the shift. I mean, we did, like, we still do everything that we can for full management clients and everything, but in terms of the scalability, it just kind of hit a point where it was like, well, if I keep doing this the same way, it's like the definition of insanity, right? You're just like doing the same thing over and over again, and you get to a certain point, but if you don't have a scalable model, that's all you're going to get. You can't build out the business to where I want it to be, and where my partners want it to be, if you don't have a scalable model. And if you're kind of spending too much time with a limited team in the beginning, then you don't have the capital, you don't have the cash flow to necessarily bring in people and train them and do all of that kind of stuff. So the thing that productizing does is, number one, it makes it way easier for the salesperson. Number two, it makes it way easier for delegating tasks or automating tasks. And yeah, number three, it makes it way easier as a whole for the company to actually grow and continue to like have a single offer. Because in the beginning, if we say, well, we're going to do your copywriting, we're going to do your photography, we're going to do inventory management as well on Amazon, and we're going to open cases for you and be on the phone with their seller support and do all this other stuff. It's like those tasks are things that
They're
help
dynamic.
businesses. Yeah, but they're very dynamic. Yeah. So yeah, when you productize it, it's essentially allowing that to be a single offer. So if you're doing any sort of advertising in general, yeah, you just can't say like, we'll custom mold this in a solution for you, and then they're going to be so confused. And then also, not to mention, when the sales guy was on the phone, it was like the sales cycle was, could end up being weeks or months, because people really had to grasp, the overall concept. Like, well, so are you doing this? Are you doing that? Like, what don't you do?
Yes.
What do you do? Yeah. And yeah, so it's like the pitch, even alone, just trying to let them know what it is that we do, takes could take a half an hour just to explain all of that, to begin with. And if they don't really know a lot about the Amazon space, but they're just looking for a solution provider, it just ends up, yeah, confusing a lot of people and slowing down things. And it also is very limited on your scalability, because you're trying to go after that top 10% of companies out there. There's a lot of companies out there, but you're in a very defined, niche, or well defined, demographic rather, and you can't really cast a wide net, so to speak, because when you have a solution or a service that solves that problem for a lot of different people, now you're able to cast an extremely wide net, because you're only doing the one thing. It's clear, it's concise. And then you're specializing in it, so that's your sole focus, is to build up that product to the best of your ability, and to make sure that you're providing, a top-notch service. I don't know if do you watch any of, like Sam Ovens, or any of the other, guys out there? Like, they kind of, I've heard this topic a lot recently from several different people, but they were kind of mentioning that, with social media, a lot of times the big issue is that, everyone is out there now. Everyone is a guru. Everyone is this or that, and like they're just so many. I guess people's like bullshit detectors super high right now, because they're like, even if you're the most credible person in the world, they're gonna think that you're lying to them, or you're gonna try to scam them out of money, because they have been taken advantage of by other companies that are supposed experts and all that kind of stuff. So the main thing with that was just that, if the next evolution of, where, I've heard that things could potentially be going, is that it's not going to be, how many likes do you have, how many engagements do you have, things like that. It's going to be about your actual product. And if you have the highest quality product, people talk, and that's how you can completely, get your name out there, and you can completely, spread the word of your business, by referrals alone. Even so, if you can serve enough people to where you're able to, get a lot of different testimonials, and you're doing things like that are repetitive, like constantly the same thing, but you're becoming a master at that one thing, then now you're able to dedicate your focus on that one thing, and that one thing only, become the best person for them to utilize, rather than trying to kind of do it all. Because in the beginning, not only were we doing that, but then we're trying to do like Facebook ads, we're trying to do messenger bots, we're trying trying to do all these funnels and all that kind of stuff. And it's like, I know how to do a lot of that stuff, but when you're so scatterbrained in terms of like trying to implement every single marketing strategy out there, it's like you don't really have time to track like what is actually working, and what is, where is 90% of my results coming from, or just being able to develop the best product humanly possible. So that's really kind of like why we did that. and we are doing some things like that are kind of more just one off, but they're more price or priced as a product now. So we kind of split up the services a little bit rather than trying to say, here's the startup cost, here's the monthly, and we're going to do everything. So that was kind of the way that our business evolved, and it's definitely paying dividends now. But yeah, I feel like there's, and I don't know what your opinions are. I'd like to hear that, but I feel like there's a lot of people that are pitching the overall agency model, which it's a cash flow business. It's a business that is great because you have very high margins on it because you don't have a physical product. The physical product is in your head, it's in your knowledge, things like that. But I haven't heard a lot of people that are saying like, what do I do next? Like, sure, getting up to $10,000 a month is great, with 5 clients or whatever. But like, what do I do next? How do I get to 100,000? How do I get to 500,000? How do I get to 1 million a month? And that's where it kind of cuts off. It's like, there's a lot of noise, but it's just I think it's like I really just don't know exactly why that isn't being taught more often. But yeah, I'd definitely like to hear your opinion on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what it boils down to is it's really easy to get started with a marketing agency. Like, anybody can go on Canva, create a logo, build a website on WordPress or Wix or Shopify, wherever, and say, all right, here's my agency. I've been doing this for 7 years now. I can go take screenshots of some Facebook ads that I ran, and let's do it. Like, I'm awesome at this, and you definitely need my services. And there is such a need for digital marketing help and Facebook help, Google help, and SEO and Google ads and Facebook ads and YouTube ads, any kind of ads you can imagine, copywriting, design, all of it, right? All of that is in a humongous need, or there is a humongous need for that stuff, because there are a ton of business owners, especially like local businesses, who just have no idea. They have no idea about this world of online marketing, of digital marketing. So I feel like there's a lot of people who will go to those local businesses and say, hey, I can do this, and that. And they'll kind of list off a few things, and the local business owners a lot of times will come back and say, well, I need this, and this. And they'll say, yep, done, let's do it. And then they'll go try to YouTube it and figure out how to do it for the client. And
right.
in the meantime, like, the client is spending thousands of dollars trying to pay for this person's education. And like, to me, I would prefer to be honest and to go in and say like, hey, I don't know how to do this, but I'll do it for you for free, and I want to learn. You need this service done. If it ends up working out where I make you money, then let's move forward at that point. Right, but give me a shot for me to do it for free. This is what I want to try, right? So I would almost, my opinion is that I would prefer to come at it from that point and just operate with the highest of integrity, because, and I know I'm kind of taking a side route to get to the point here, but I think it's easy to go out and just knock on doors and drum up business in the short term, right? But so you might go out and sell 5 people because you promised them the world, and then you could get $10,000, and you're like, oh, I'm the king of the world. But then like actually executing on that is the hard part, right? That's the part that matters.
Yeah.
Okay. And to be able, and if you can execute on it, you may only be really good at executing at one thing. That's the thing you should focus on. I think that's kind of the epitome of like this whole broadcast, is say like, pick the one thing that you're the best at and really focus in on that, right?
Yep.
But as far as like my opinion on it, honestly, I think that kind of like what you were saying, people are wisening up now, and not as much with local business owners quite yet. I think there's about like a 12-month window where local business owners still aren't going to be like fully in the know. But I think after about another year, they're going to like most business owners are going to know, like, okay, I'm not going to trust every Joe Schmo that comes in here selling me SEO, selling me Google, selling me Facebook. Like, they're wisening up now.
Right.
And I think at that point, my prediction is going to be kind of like what you were saying. The people who are the highest quality, meaning they have the best product or the best service and they can deliver the best result, those are the ones that are going to be staying in the game, right? Those are the ones that are going to be at the top. And you know, in my own life, like I've had an agency. I've had multiple agencies, and what I found was that the easiest way that I've been able to build my agencies up, and I'm, you know, just disclaimer here, like I'm not actively accepting new clients. Like I very rarely am going to do marketing work for anybody at this point, unless it's a super extremely rare circumstance. But so I'm not trying to pitch anything, is what I'm getting at. But what I found worked the best for me when I was doing it was to pick something where you don't have to deliver a subjective result, right? So what does that mean? Sell something that you can make a promise on, right? So for example, I started off selling social media management. So I would create posts for people on Facebook, right? And I start off and I would say, okay, for $400 a month, I will create 2 posts a week on Facebook. That's it. That was it. That's all I did. And I was like, okay, if you want to add another platform, that's another $400 a month. And we'll bump it up to 2 platforms at 2 posts per week. And that's what it was, because you can promise that. You can promise somebody that you're going to post something for them on Facebook twice a week. You're not promising sales. You're not promising clicks. You're not promising impressions. You're not promising anything that you can't deliver on. You're promising posts, right? Same, but now on the flip side of that, right? If you go and sell Facebook ads, and you say, I'm going to sell you Facebook ads that are going to convert sales, that's a really hard thing to do. It's really hard to promise sales every time. That's really hard to do. The people who can do that, somebody like Grant Cardone, he can go in and he can promise that he's going to turn your sales team into a freaking sales generating machine. And, you know, we can see how successful he is, right? So if you can do that, I mean, power to you. You have unlimited potential, right? I would promise something that you can deliver on every single time without fail. That is for you is easy to deliver, because for them it's not that easy. For us, it's really easy to go post on Facebook. For a business owner that's already working 12 hours a day, they don't even know how to make a Facebook page, right? So it's easy for us. Good, that's what you want. It's still valuable to somebody else. So I have a question for you, and I know I kind of went on a tangent there.
Oh no, you're good.
Having made this shift now in your business, gone to a more scalable route, do you think you would have been farther along in your business if you would have taken this approach from the beginning?
That's a good question. I think that honestly think no, just right off the bat, because, and I'll explain why. I feel like in business, I mean, I'm not, you know, like I guess it depends on what you're doing and stuff like that. But one thing that is really cool about business is that you end up learning so much from your mistakes. And like in the beginning, a lot of times you don't know what you're doing at all. Not like in terms of your skill that you're trying to do, but like in terms of running the actual business. You know, it's always a learning experience every day. It's like a roller coaster. I think I heard that it's like Andy Versella, he was saying that like that he thinks that entrepreneurship is like the hardest profession in the world, like even more so than elite like elite sports or becoming a doctor and things like that. Nothing against those people, but it's just that you really do have to endure a lot of pain in the beginning to figure out what doesn't work, and then you like learn from those mistakes. You're able to refine it because if I think you could definitely start off with that service or that model, but you still run into those initial um, growing pains. Like, what do I utilize to for a payment processor? How do I file, or how do I set up my LLC or S corp, or like all the different challenges that you run across. But also, I think it's because like when you are in it every single day, we started to understand uh, the market better because I've been doing e-commerce ever since I was like 15 or 16. I think I opened up my first uh, eBay store in like 1999. I'm 32 now, but like I've been doing that. I've done big commerce. I've done Amazon. I did like wholesale, retail arbitrage, online arbitrage, like that. E-commerce has been my bread and butter the whole time. So my skill set was there, but getting in the mindset of the customer and like what challenges they actually face, sometimes it's hard because you're seeing that from your own perspective. You're looking through the glass, like in the way that you think it works. And that was kind of the way that we formed initially. It was like, well, I know that business owners are out there with great products that don't know how to do things on Amazon, and they don't know how to do the photography, they don't know how to do the copywriting, and so had big ambitions in the very beginning of like providing all of those services to people was something that I knew how to do, but I didn't foresee the challenges of like what happens after 5 or 10 clients, like so that's why, yeah, I guess like that model could have definitely worked if I knew it up front and I was like full force going towards it. uh, have that knowledge in the industry and the challenges that people face. It's something that constantly evolves, and that's why pivots and companies exist all the time, because they have one vision in the beginning and then they're like, wait a second, this isn't the most efficient way to do it. Like, what if we did this and we became really good at just this? So that's why, yeah, it takes some, like, you being seasoned a little bit to get to that ultimate product. I think, can you start off with like just being a copywriter and write Amazon listings? Absolutely. Can you start as a photographer and do just Amazon listings? Absolutely. But you may have not learned the skill set of like trying to manage that agency and figure out all the intricacies in the beginning, um, to be able to come up with your MVP, your most valuable player in your company, or as far as your service goes. So I think it's taught me a lot along the way in the business, and I think that's why we kind of got to evolve to that. But in the beginning, it just for me, and I'm not saying this to deter anyone out there, because you might have a great idea of a product or service right off the bat, but because I was so far down the rabbit hole, I guess, it's hard to gather that perspective. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And it seems like one of the core things that you were saying was you almost have to get out there and just start and try a bunch of stuff and throw a bunch of shit against the wall and see what sticks.
Yeah.
And then come back almost retroactively and be like, okay, well, what was I actually best at? Okay, now let's focus on that. So that's an interesting perspective. I actually didn't expect you to say that at all.
Oh, really?
That was cool. Yeah, that was interesting. So
yeah, it was like I was watching an interview from, and I don't know how long trying to get that on the live stream here, but if you got a few more minutes or whatever.
Yeah, let's try to wrap up in about 3 minutes.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I was watching a not a documentary, but a speech by Jeff Bezos, and he's talking about his failures, and he's like, I made billions of dollars on my failures. So that's the mindset that you have to have. I feel like a lot of times everyone's looking for that instant gratification inside of business, inside of weight loss, like whatever personal development you're trying to do, but you really start to figure out along the way that things, people that say it's just completely easy, they're most likely trying to sell you something. So you just have to be careful with that. But, come to appreciate like your failures. Like, I don't even classify, a lot of things as failures. I classify it as learning opportunities, because it's like if I never would have done that, if I never would have went that path, I never would have learned, and I never would have, progressed. So I think that's just an important thing, to keep in mind for those of you that may be in a 9-to-5 right now, trying to start your own thing, become an entrepreneur. It's like you really, don't get distracted by all the glitz and glamour out there that is trying to promise like overnight success and everything's easy, and you literally just press a button and you're you're a millionaire. So you have to really get strength or be strengthened, but don't let the failures deter you either, because even if you classify them as a failure, because what can come of that failure can be incredible.
Oh, absolutely. And I would just like to add one caveat to that.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really hard to see the learning opportunity when you're going through it. Like, you may be in it, and it's like, you may be thinking in your head, this is the thing. I'm going to be a multi-gazillionaire tomorrow because this is just going to skyrocket. And then it doesn't work out, even though you were so sure that it would. And you're just like, what the hell? Like, I was so sure that was going to work, right? It really is a learning opportunity. Like, I can say I've probably failed more than anybody on the face of the planet. And, like,
yeah.
now being able to focus on Project Egg and to focus on creating the content that I love, I mean, it is the greatest gift, or one of the greatest gifts. I think my family's probably my greatest gift on the planet. But
yeah,
being able to build Project Egg is literally one of the coolest things on the planet to me, and it's amazing, right? But if I hadn't failed so many times and at so many different things, I wouldn't have known, and I didn't realize that that's what I was doing the whole time. I thought I was like, that was the thing, but then it's like, no, the thing that will stick after everything else dies away, like, that's the real thing. But it takes trying all those different things to get to that one thing that sticks. And that may not make any sense at all. It made sense in my head when I said it.
Yeah, it makes complete sense to me. Like, I've been there many of times. Like, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel, like when you're in a situation, especially if you feel like there's not, like, you almost lose hope sometimes in the beginning, and it's hard to see that until you look back on it and you're like, wow, that was an amazing, like, even though that was a horrible time, and I never wish this upon anyone, like, this is something that molded me for who I am, and like and led me to the proper path of like where I wanted to go. So
Absolutely.
100% resonate with that. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, Aaron, I want to thank you so much for coming and chatting today, and I appreciate you doing a live stream. I know that it's you can't mess up on a live stream, or everybody will see you. So,
right. Yeah.
appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
Appreciate you very much, man. So, everybody who's listening, also, thank y'all so much. I love y'all for watching and listening and being a part of it. Y'all the best, and wish y'all the best. So I'll see you on the next time. I'm testing out a new tagline for these live streams. I'm I'm thinking about calling myself the friendly neighborhood entrepreneur. I don't know if that's going to stick or not, but it's just been another another casual conversation with the friendly neighborhood entrepreneur. It kind of sounds dumb. I'm not going to do that anymore. But anyways, take care, you guys. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you.
See you, Aaron. Thank you.
See ya.